Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Had to share the meeting from my phone because that's where I set it up at. It's 3:36 on January 19th, 2022. We're here for LCEA bargaining with Lake County Schools. Welcome, everyone. Again, appreciate everyone's flexibility. I sent over a agenda to you guys. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Real quick, if we can do a roll call, I'll start with the district. Chad Farnsworth.
Guido Zamora.
Jake
Julie Lou Allen.
Sammy Sidora.
Linda Shepherd Miller.
So we got Jeff Williams. I think his audio cut out for a second. Mr. Ward's just on standby in case we have any questions. I can text him and he's going to hop on. I think that's it for the district.
All right, looks like we're having some technology things now, so we can go ahead. She's going to have to reboot. So.
You need us to hold on for a second, or?
So go ahead, Chad.
Okay. Can your folks do a roll call?
She's getting back on. Okay.
Tracy Wood, LCEA.
Liz Schwatter, LCEA.
Kathy Smith, LCEA.
Amy Gordon, LCEA.
Angela Dawson.
Elizabeth Emery, LCEA.
Patrick Kelly, LCEA.
Tessa Clark, LCEA. Tony Beckett, LCEA.
I think that's everybody on our side.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Since we last met, we had a few things go on. Met a couple times with the compensation subcommittee to go over different points of data as far as related to compensation. We also have had a couple of executive sessions, with the most recent one being yesterday, that have gone well. So I've got a counter proposal to present to you guys today. I sent over a copy of the counter proposal to you guys not too long ago, a few minutes. So on the agenda items for our counter proposal, we have a salary proposal accompanied by a new salary schedule that will reflect the change. Retention bonus using ESSER funds proposal, some information that we've broken out in the standard MOUs, which are critical shortage in Title I that would go along with the contract, and then some proposal for in-service instructor compensation and our workshop stipend that we briefly touched on last time. We have our tentative agreements that we've worked on so far, Article 10, Article 11, Article 26, and then in Appendix E where you guys added the membership application with the QR code piece. Next steps, dates for next meeting, possible plan for ratification, and send over proposals in Word after, and any counter proposals before any virtual meetings. So, all that being said, if you guys are good, I'll go ahead and move over to the proposal.
Oh, thanks, Trevor.
Yes, that's fine.
Back porch, maybe.
Okay, here's our proposal. I shrunk it down just a little bit so we can fit the lingo on the top if you needed to see that while looking at the charts on the bottom. Once we've gone over the wording at the top, I can scroll up and blow it up if you need me to. So essentially this is a little bit different than what we talked about it in our subcommittee, but this varies a little bit. As Scott and I and Guido were looking at this, how do we convey an increase in a way that everybody understands? We talked about, okay, it's a blended model where some folks will receive just a minimum salary increase, some will receive performance pay strictly, and then you have some that are blended. The way we originally talked about was beginning with a minimum salary increase, but when we started looking at it for ease of understanding, for the numbers working, and to eliminate that feeling of people getting different ratings and not receiving the same amount for a performance pay, we've reversed that blend to where the performance pay comes in first, and then the difference is made up to the total increase using the minimum salary increase. So as reads, base salary for instructional personnel will be increased through performance pay. After performance pay is determined, teachers below the new minimum 45,725 will receive a portion of the teacher salary increase to reach the new minimum of 45,725. The existing instructional salary placement schedule will reflect a new minimum teacher salary of 45,725. New instructional personnel will be placed accordingly at an experience level of 0 through 14 at the new minimum, and you can see that reflected. You can see that reflected on the new salary schedule I sent over. It's very much like last time when we raised the minimum, and it covered 0 through 12. Now it moves up to covering 0 through 14. So looking at the chart here, remember there's certain statutes and guidelines between the two different methods that we have to do our best to stay in compliance with. So as you're looking at the people that are at the current minimum of 44,750, they would be moved up at they're considered the bottom of the range, and then up to the new minimum. You would receive a performance pay based on your evaluation rating, and once you hit the minimum mark, you would get your performance pay, and once you hit your minimum mark, any difference that needs to be made up would be made up through the minimum salary increase allocation dollars. And that total increase is going to vary. And then anyone that's currently equal to or above the new minimum at 45,725 would get the performance pays you see there listed for the different amounts under the performance column in the middle. And that will be their total increase. And because they're already above the minimum, none of the minimum teacher salary increase pay would apply to them. And just remember, when you look at that grandfather highly effective, that number is established because of the maximum amount that in order to, the goal is to get the minimum teacher salary as high as we can. because that allows us to raise that grandfather highly effective as high as we can. But you cannot, the grandfather highly effective, just to remind everyone, cannot be, it can only be 150% less than the maximum increase to any other salary. And the maximum increase that anybody will receive is that 975 that the base is increasing by. I know it's very confusing and it's very intertwined. Unless you've spent a whole lot of time embedded in it, you've probably got some questions. So just, this is the first piece of the proposal. I'd like to open it up for any comments or questions from you guys, Kathy.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is the questions that's gonna come from all of this, because they're not gonna understand. I mean, the table, I mean, yes, I understand it, but I mean, I know that they're not gonna understand.
Well, and I think that's when we tried doing it the reverse way, it was even 10 times more confusing. Because then you had to answer, you know, why is someone, why am I highly effective and they're highly effective and we're getting different amounts? So this way you're getting, based on your performance and your rating, you're getting one solid amount. And then the fluctuation comes through the minimum salary increase. So what we'll do once we reach a point of agreement is we'll go to work on reconstructing our salary summary report on Skyward with all the mouse overs that explain everything, and we'll be able to point people to that, but we'll also be available one-on-one after folks have taken a look at that salary summary screen to counsel people through it if they need some assistance to realize how they arrived where they arrived at.
Okay.
So-
Questions on this part? I don't have any questions on this part now.
Okay. I know you guys will, I imagine, have to talk about it amongst yourselves at some point. So if you have any questions before then or after then, that's fine. Coming down to the next section is our retention bonus. These are from the ESSER dollars for dollars that are set aside for learning loss, and retention of teachers is important in that. What you've got is a total of $3,000 in bonus on the table, broken into two parts. The first part we will begin processing and ready to pay out as soon as we reach ratification and agreement on the 2021-22 contract. And that will be $1,500. And then upon September 15th, which is that date every year that we have where people have to secure employment in the district without a break in service, that we would have another $1,500 retention bonus for those who are currently employed at that time. The school board is going to cover the district's portion of taxes and benefits for the bonuses. And then the other deductions for individual employees will be deducted from the total amount of the bonus. So they would see the whole amount of the bonus, and then whatever deductions folks have selected on their own would come out of that bonus.
Okay, and I guess then at this point, then I would have two questions.
Okay.
One would be, why is it a bonus and not a supplement? Because I know that was one of the questions and one of the things that we had put in. And I mean, I understand the two. So basically those teachers that stayed here and stayed and retained for this year would get a total of $3,000. Half of it being now and then the other half being after September 15th, whatever. So I'm assuming then by October of this year, they would then receive the other $1,500.
That is correct.
Okay, so then the question still is bonus versus supplement. And then this is only then for this 1 year out of the ESSER funds, not anything for, and we would just have to continue then to keep going with bringing up this then in the spring, summer, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like we've got to, you know, and there were several considerations. I'll talk to the timing of it first. There were several considerations in that, to where, you know, it's no secret that we have turnover in the district. That's year in, year out throughout history. There's been decent amount of turnover. But our longest, when we're dealing with when we've got these one-time dollars that are going to span over the course of 3 years, roughly, you know, to drop a whole lump sum and then a lot of dollars walking out of the door, that wouldn't be around for later, perhaps. The risk was really large there, and it's really one that will be suffered by our folks who have been here year in, year out, and that have been in Lake County for a long time, and are not just fly by night in the district this year, you know, either waiting to get closer to Orange or wherever they may be on their way to. So that was kind of the thinking of breaking it up. I think we're going to continue to monitor our ESSER dollars. We've got, you know, obviously we've got some other employees we have to look out for with those ESSER dollars also, but we need to, you know, when we went to executive session, that was why we wanted to go back, because we need to look at some areas. You know, if the money's got to come from somewhere, right? So we had to look at some areas within our ESSER plan to make sure that we could offer a good bonus to you guys. So as far as a bonus versus stipend / supplement, when you look at it as a whole, if you were to do a stipend or a supplement, first of all, we wanted to make sure we got the maximum amount of dollars to everybody that we could. And we also wanted, in order to do that and cover the board's portion of taxes and benefits, we wanted to make sure there was much money there as possible. If we did make it a stipend or a supplement, it would only impact, we would have to pay the FRS at a rate of 10%, and the employee has to pay a 3%. That would be for every employee that got it. And that would only be benefiting just a small handful of folks that are adding on an amount for their high five. And that's where I don't want to make it seem like that's not important, because that's not true. You know, I think we've seen in, you know, salary proposals and different things that we've done, we're trying to benefit those people at the top. But when you go to splitting $1,000 or a $1,500 bonus across 5 years of high five, it's a minimal amount that it's going to benefit those folks in the big scheme of things, where it would cost a large amount, you know, upwards of $3 million to cover a tremendous amount of taxes, and it just didn't make as much sense to us. So we talked about it heavily, but in order to get the most amount and for us to cover the board's portion, because if you remember, like things like best and brightest, and when the governor waves his wand, sometimes, you know, they'll send us the money, and because it's their money, we don't usually, we would have to come out of general to cover those deductions. So we want to cover those and get the largest amount out.
I guess the only other question would be the fact of what do we do with, for example, and no offense to principals that are on here, but I'm going to say it. What do we do about the principals that continue to not hire people just because they're not a good fit, or they're not this, or they're not that this year? That's going to then, you know, because a lot of them get rehired in a different school. So how does that play into this? For example, they're not rehired at school A, but then they're hired before the 15th at school B, does that still cover them?
Yeah, that's a great question. They will definitely be covered. That's why I set that September 15th date. If someone goes from one school to another, then that would allow them to be eligible. That key is not having that break in service.
So anybody that would come back on September 16th, then that would be considered the break in service, and they wouldn't be eligible for the 1,500.
Well, that's correct, because we're gonna have a drop dead date of we have to pick a date, right, when we start processing. So if we start processing at that date, that's any instructional personnel that's employed at that time will be included.
So how many, a guesstimate, I guess, how many people would this affect as the difference between you're saying the supplement versus the bonus? I mean, we have to give these people that are more experienced something. And so far, we're not really giving a whole lot, I guess you would say, because we don't have longevity, we don't have, I understand that, to be honest with you, yes, the salary increase is better than some that I have seen around, which is wonderful. But the retention bonus and the things like that, I mean, is not as good as what I've seen in some other places because of, the experienced teachers are still not getting what they really deserve, and it's not stretched out enough. It's not, and at least maybe giving some of those people versus a supplement versus the idea of a bonus. I mean, I'm just trying to get something for our more experienced teachers that have not received a lot.
Well, I want everybody to think back to when there's a reason we had a rapid settlement on June 30 of last year, because that was to benefit a salary increase that was a little more meaningful to our most experienced teachers. So, I mean, we're doing some things along the way that whenever we can. And that's why we reworked into this blended model, because the other models we were looking at were not going to benefit as much those more experienced teachers. So, I mean, there's some things that are naturally in place that we can't overcome in that regard, but there wouldn't be an appetite by us to do a stipend and a bonus mixture. And we could look at the numbers, but I can tell you it's probably not a huge impact.
Yeah, we want to get it.
Once you divide that across those people's 5 years, I'm not sure this is the area to make that impact in. And from our perspective, we just keep looking at ways whenever we can increase salary to work within the law to get as much as we can to those folks.
I have a question. Just want to make sure I understand, Chad. So at the point of ratification, the current employees in the bargaining unit would then be processed for the 15th check. Then it says all instructional personnel in September. So does that mean any new hires?
Yes.
Over the summer? Okay, so it's not just those that got the first check are eligible for the second check, but all people employed again on that one date get a check.
That is correct.
Okay, got it.
I think and that's why you don't see words like an additional or another. So because those were some of the things we thought, and just to be honest with you, I feel like we're going to have a lot of vacancies, no secret. So rather than beat up on trying to get some type of recruitment bonus out of it, this is kind of an embedded benefit to those people that are coming on also, because at some point they're going to be instructional personnel with you guys and us. So
We have an awful lot of teachers who are hired in August and they're gone by October and November, and now they're going to get another bonus again where a new hire is getting more and getting the same thing that an experienced teacher is that's been here for 10, 15, 20 years. And that's, I mean, that's not a retention bonus. They just got hired.
we don't have a tremendous amount that come on in August and are gone by September. I mean, granted, are there a few? Yeah, there's always going to be a few, but there's not a whole bunch of folks that are like that. I mean, you could push the date, I guess, and ensure that they're going to be here in October. Or I would just like to ensure that we get the $1,500 to our employees that by the holidays. So that September 5th date, 15th date looked like a natural date for us.
And I understand where you're coming from, but again, then a new hire wherever, whether they're a first-year teacher or a 10-year teacher, whatever, they're gonna get that bonus on September 15th, and they've only worked a month or a month and a half. And again, that's not really, I don't want to say, use the word fair, but it's not equitable to the people that have stayed with Lake County, you know, for years. Maybe it could be split. You have $750 on the 15th, and then if they're still there in January, then they get the other $750 or something. I don't know, something that makes them stay and be here versus, again, because I mean, I still look at the member stuff, and we've had almost 40 people that I know of that have come on and left within 3 to 4 months. So if that person comes in September and they're here, they get $1,500. They could leave in November and December, and you know they got an extra $1,500. Again, instead of somebody that's been loyal and stuck with Lake County. I mean, I'm just trying to come up with something that we can, that wouldn't necessarily, and no offense to the new people, because we need teachers, I understand that too. But again, this doesn't seem equitable to those people who have still stuck it out and still have stayed here, because to me, that's not a retention bonus to give it to somebody that has been here. Maybe do the $1,500 to those people who have been here, and then the new hires get it later. Or, I mean, I don't know, I'm just trying to brainstorm here of ways that we could possibly, yes, I no offense, yes, everybody needs the money, and I'm fine with that. It's just the idea of new hired, and they're only been here a month, and they're getting the same amount as somebody that's been here 20 years.
Well, I think that, I mean, I understand your point. Whether or not that's gonna, to me, it's almost, even if you split them out or extend it by a couple months, if they're gonna be here, they're gonna be here. And we need, at the end of the day, retention is if they currently work for me at some point, and I need those classrooms filled with teachers. And it's not just for, it's obviously primarily for the kids' benefit and the learning and the education, but it also benefits if they've got a reason to stay. I guess you could drag it out and break it out, but I'm not sure that's, I guess I get your point, but I'm not sure it's going to get your desired impact. Whereas what I do have is teachers that come to work and will commit to our principles that they're going to come and work for us. And then it's prior to the school year that they're accepting jobs in other places. And if they're going to start and last through September 15th and are in the hopper for a month and have committed and establish themselves in a classroom, I feel like that's going to maybe keep them, hold on to that offer perhaps. But I'm open if you guys have a counter proposal to it. I'm definitely open. I understand your point. I just don't know that at some point it might.
Really?
Whereas I didn't want to do a chunk now because that will be a huge amount that went out with people leaving during the summer. I don't want to get it too granular, and then we're not really making the desired impact anyway.
Another stipend for critical shortage for 500.
Somebody's not muted.
It was
Yeah,
Kim. I muted her.
Okay, yeah, that's the only question. And like I said, just trying to kind of brainstorm as to how, or give more now and less later. I don't know. We just need, I want to keep the people that we have So even maybe like 2,000 and then 1,000. Something, I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with making it better to where we get, and hopefully we keep the ones then that want to stay here with a larger now possibly. And then maybe the more experienced teachers wouldn't feel so bad about giving somebody just, you know, like $1,000 then that they just come in and they're only here a month. Because you give them $1,000, that's not saying that they could leave in October. You know, and then they got, you know, the money. So, which we do have people resign. So we'll figure that out. So if you want to continue with the rest of your this, and then we may caucus.
Okay. So we have our critical shortage stipend, which goes into our MOU, and a Title I supplement MOU. Those amounts I'm proposing at the same rate as they were last year at $750. But in working with the board and areas that they want us to focus on, was expanding the to a high school algebra teachers, because that seems to be a pretty critical shortage area, especially at that secondary high school level. These are general fund dollars, and that part of the reasoning for staying in the same window of funding or amount for it is because we wanted those to go towards the salary package we discussed at the top. The Title I supplement, same amount as last year with the $500, and continuing as we annually agree on this part of it as required by statute, leaving that amount at 500. I will tell you, because you guys in your proposal with the critical shortage had some expansion in there when it goes to all CTE areas and some other things, it increased the cost greatly. So I think it's something that at a time when just about everything's critical shortage, I think drilling down, that was the question the board had was, okay, let's look at math, let's look at algebra, it's been a problem. What's an area we can drill down into if we're going to add anything but not add everything? Then Appendix D, this was the additional piece that addressed our in-service and instructors compensation. Currently, those folks providing in-service instruction, we're at $30 an hour. And we wanted to raise that. It was the board's appetite to raise that to their normal hourly rate for those providing that in service. And then the stipend rate has been at $20 per hour for years. And they felt like that was something that needed to be increased also. As I looked around at other districts and I weighed out the cost, taking that up for attendees to the hourly rate created an astronomical amount. It was too much for us. So, but a $5 increment, we felt like would help folks out. And as you see on the stipend rate, the federal and general, I had that broken out. That was in my notes, but for each one of these, we broke it out for what it would cost for federal dollars and what would it cost for general dollars. And I can get those figures on the other sections of this Appendix D if I need to. But that was mainly just looking at, okay, how are we going to cover if grants haven't expanded to cover the additional amount? We would have to cover those increases. And then the writing teams was another piece to where, you know, we're trying to focus on when people are doing work that are outside of their normal work there. So we felt like when people are being paid for district approved writing teams, which that reaches out to the schools, they'll be compensated at their normal hourly rate also. And then lastly, insurance, we're no increase in premiums for the 21-22 plan year. That I know we've got an upcoming insurance committee meeting, but once something's agreed upon by us, it's what it is. So we've got that insurance committee meeting, and we've talked about it here and there that we'd like to do no increase for premiums. We're this far into the plan year anyway, so it's not like we want to saddle our employees with premium increases at this point in time now anyway. So, but that is a big piece. Everybody just needs to keep in mind any cost prohibitive measures we can do in insurance. It's money that would be coming out of your pocket that's taxed. So that's also, while it might be the shortest line on the proposal, it's one of the most important and valuable that we want to stress to you guys. So that's what I have for a proposal.
Okay, and then the placement schedule just adds the $400 to all the levels, then claps the levels below the new.
That's Angela's.
Let me-
This one's theirs,
This one's
This one's
theirs,
where it says Lake Council.
the 45.8.
Yeah. So theirs is different.
45.8, 164, 747. Okay,
Can you guys see that draft schedule? Okay, and
yeah,
keep in mind, folks, we don't make the rules. We just have to follow them. So
no,
I know nobody's thrilled about that 0 to 14, but it's the world we live in the state of Florida at this point, unfortunately.
unfortunately. Okay. So I think we need to caucus,
Okay,
so we can mute ourselves so that you guys can't hear anything.
that's fine.
If it's gonna be a while, we'll let you know, and then we'll just say that we can come back and next time revisit whatever at that point.
Okay, just
Chad.
let me know, we'll stay put and you guys can caucus. I'm gonna
Chad,
pause the recording. Give me one second.
Chad,
Yes,
Kathy, can I
Yes.
just add 2 pieces of information? Because I know
Okay.
that you guys are going to talk about it, and I ran a real quick report, so it's not 100% accurate, but it's probably close, and at least kind of give you an idea. There's about 70, 75 teachers that I show at June 30th that have between 25 and 30 years of service. That would probably be your closest estimate at this point in time about how many teachers would be impacted versus stipend versus bonus. Teachers beyond that are more than likely already retired and dropped, and won't help them at all. People before that probably weren't in their high 5 yet, so it won't help them at all either. So it's the ones that are in that small window. And then, so if you take the $3,000 by approximately 3,000 by 3,000 instructional personnel, that'd be $9 million cost. And retirement right now is a little over 10%. So, 10% of 9 million would be $900,000. So it would cost an additional $900,000 for to turn it into a stipend versus a bonus. It'll also cost the employee, 3% of that. So, $270,000 the employees would have to pay for it to be a stipend versus a bonus. So I just wanted you guys to know that, kind of get an idea of how much ballpark impact it would be both ways.
Okay.
Any questions? All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Also, for anyone on Zoom that's ours, I just emailed out a link for the caucus.
and this one will remain open. So if you guys are hopping on and off, you can hop off and hop back on. So if you guys are ready, I'll go ahead and pause us and we can go to caucus. It's 4:16 p.m. on January 19th, 2022. We're going to caucus now. Okay, we're back from caucus. It's 4:47 p.m. on January 19th, 2022. If you guys want to go ahead, I'll share my screen so everybody can see your counter.
Okay. Did the compensation one? Yes.
Everybody see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
The counter proposal, the compensation portion
Mm-hmm.
is fine.
Okay.
Page 2, we have questions and a possible change.
Okay.
The retention bonus, we asked if it could be more now for the people that are here. So it would be the $2,000 retention bonus now, and then $1,000 then on after September 15th of being here, then the year.
Okay.
Then you go down to the critical shortage. We just have an issue because it said stipend and then bonus down below where we put in the word stipend. So we were assuming that it meant that it is a stipend, not a bonus.
Yeah, I need to double check on the intent was for it to be the same as it's always been.
And I believe it's always been a stipend. And I think, again, it was just the bonus there, so it would be turned into a stipend instead of the bonus. We were also had a couple questions with this, though, in the fact that I know it's just been a given, let's call it, that the critical shortages have been given out each semester. So does that need to be in here, or we just go by past practice?
Looking back at the approved MOUs that we've done, it's been a supplement for the Title I and then a bonus for the critical shortage. As far as how they're paid out, I would need to just we want to do it how we've always done it. On the payout, we would follow a past practice on that.
Okay, which was the fact of the critical would be each semester giving, I'm assuming half. And then the Title I money was a retro and then just added on to each paycheck.
That, I believe you're correct.
Okay. And then one other question was the high school algebra. Again, we're kind of assuming here, but that's algebra 1, algebra 2, that's both of them, correct?
It was intended for algebra 1.
Okay, algebra 1. Now, that case, would the 8th grade teachers that teach that in 8th grade, would they also receive that?
No, it was only intended for high school. With the thought process being your middle school algebra students, probably the best math students that we have in the entire district. So we're trying to gear for a critical shortage to have people want to teach that algebra 1, which are historically the most difficult math students that you have to get over the algebra 1 hump. That's why in talking with the board, we wanted to angle towards the algebra 1. So I apologize for not putting the 1 behind the algebra there, but that was the intent of our proposal.
Okay. That may be a clarification then, because algebra 1 in 8th grade, they're going to think that they're going to get that.
Well, I think if we put it, that's why designated as high school, it's pretty clear that if they're not a high school.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
possibly another question. I guess we have another question that, is it hard to find intensive reading teachers?
It is, and we looked at, that was probably the next in line. That would be a desirable group to include. But where we were looking at trying not to expand and put too much weight on this year, that would probably be something that we'd like to visit in the future.
Okay, so like in the spring, when we start talking about things that could be a possibility?
As we start looking at for next contract session, absolutely.
Okay. And then, I think that was all the questions for those two areas, I believe.
Okay.
And then Appendix D, we were okay with also.
Okay.
And then, of course, the no increase in insurance was, of course, fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess in a sense, we were okay with everything besides questions, except the retention bonus. In the fact that we really feel like we need to get more money up front to some of our people who have really struggled so much last year and this year. And then they can still have more. It would still be the same amount of money. It would just be different in the fact that they would have more now and then a little bit less than as of next year, which would then also still give those people that are new, still give them something when they come in.
Okay. If you don't mind, if that's all you guys' questions, I'd like to take just a brief caucus, probably less than 10 minutes, if that's okay.
Okay.
For my folks, I've created another Zoom session. Gail, if you'll forward them that email, if you have not yet. And I'm going to leave this link active for mine, and I'll get on the Zoom on my phone so if my people, if you want to hop off and link on to the new address, that'll be fine. You can just come back to this one. Does that make sense to my team? Okay. Okay.
Angela,
It's 4:55 at 119. School board is called a caucus. We'll be back momentarily. Hello, everyone. It's 5:05 on January 19th, 2022. We're returning from caucus. I'll go ahead and share my screen. First of all, on the retention bonus, making the changes to the 2,000 and the 1,000. I'll underline this, I meant to. We accept those changes that you guys proposed in the counter proposal. For the sake of keeping things consistent and processing, I would like to leave the critical shortage as a bonus. Currently, it does pay out first semester, second semester, according to Ms. Sycamore. Guido also looked it up and he saw it might have been a different way. We'd like to pay it consistent. I know it's always the last one that we pay out for everything we do all year. So I'd like to just stay consistent on what we're doing there.
You want to change the title then?
Yeah.
Yeah. They would have to change.
Oh yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, you have to be.
That was my oversight from the, because we don't have a title for it on our current MOU. So yes, I'll definitely fix that real quick. And then I clarified under the category, I put high school only algebra 1.
Okay,
And other than that, all things are the same. Do you feel like you guys we're in a good spot, maybe to reach a TA?
yes, I believe we can.
All right. We can get on getting a clean copy of this to you guys to review, and then TA. As far as that puts us at a point where we're ready to put this out towards ratification, correct?
Correct.
By the way, we did respond to the FEA attorneys about the virtual ratification. No problems here with that.
Okay,
So I'm not sure exactly when acceptance for that will come, but
all right, yeah, this will be new to me, so we'll be, I mean, I have to figure it all out at that point.
but, and you know, just like in the past, we've done things out of the ordinary as far as communicating in regards to ratification and contract. We're here for you guys from an IT standpoint, or anything you need with assistance on those pieces.
And I remember Kim saying that I know they did at least this year's virtually, so nothing else, maybe I can kind of talk with her and see how how you guys ran things for SEIU, and see if we can kind of do the very similar to that, if that's okay with
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, I think she's done it twice, and it's gone pretty smoothly, to be honest with you. She hadn't had any hiccups. There were a couple things to figure out on the front end, but if you're doing it the same way she has, then we should be in pretty good shape.
Okay,
Well, we'll be here to assist. We'll get some clean copies over for you guys to sign off on, and we can exchange those. We can set aside just some separate non-bargaining technical meetings if we need to talk about what kind of assistance you guys need towards ratification and official timelines. I know you probably need to talk and do a little bit of planning.
yeah, we'll have, like I said, I mean, I know that it may not take as long maybe for the process, because, you know, not having to make copies and things like that, but I'll still have to figure out and when we can do this. And so we can just talk, I guess, and figure out a date. Does that work then between like you and I to come up with a date, or do we don't have to come back for bargaining for that, but
No.
a subcommittee, or is everybody okay with just like Chad and I kind of talking about when we can kind of do this? To figure out a date that works? And I know we've usually done a Wednesday in the past, so we would just pick maybe a Wednesday, and it would be all day doing virtual voting. I'm assuming it would just be the same kind of as before, just not paper.
There's yeah, I think it'll come out to probably wanting to get the changes and things out to your people ahead of time. We can help you do that through district email addresses. And then we can talk about all the nuts and bolts of that to make sure you guys are as successful as possible. Are you going to be there for a few minutes?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and print and sign and send this to you guys in a PDF. And then if you want to do the same and send it back, we can get this TA'd tonight.
All right.
Can you send us the Word copy that you're showing right now too for our files? That way we get it in the TA folder.
Yes, that's perfect. That's what I meant.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, if that concludes everything, I'll hop off and you'll see an email come through here in just a few minutes.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, it is 5:13 on January 19th, 2022, and that concludes LCEA and Lake County School Board bargaining. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.